Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my truly excessive September reading plans. You guys know I always like to have a lot of options, but I'm also participating in quite a few readathons in September. I'm doing Series September. I'm of course doing Middle Grade Magic, which I am co-hosting. I will link that info down below, as well as the other readathons, of course. I'm also doing the Fall Into Reading Challenge, Latinx Book Bingo. I'm also planning to do Fabelin again, although I haven't picked my prompts for that yet, but I'm definitely still participating in that. So there's a lot. We're doing a lot. But I'm going to just talk about some of the books that I am excited about. I'm going to be picking from these and of course other books throughout the month. So I'm not at all saying I'm going to get to all of these. Like, there's no way. But I do like to have options, and I thought I would just share my options with you. I do have my computer open, so apologies if that's a little distracting, but I just needed this to keep track of everything. So let's go ahead and what should we start with? Okay, let's go ahead and start with Middle Grade Magic, which of course is the one that I am co-hosting. I'm being joined by my wonderful co-hosts, Yvette from Book Cave, Kelly from Cozy Reader Kelly, Kier from Kier the Scrivener, Hannah from Lynn Hermione, and Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophes. I will link all of them down below, of course, as well as the info for the readathon. I have a lot of books I'm excited for. One of them is A Place Called Perfect by Helena Dugan. This is the first book in a trilogy. I really love this cover, and you can see a bookmark. I actually technically have started this. I'm 140 pages into it, but like, okay, so backstory, I finally have a TBR cart, which I'm very excited for. I was very proud of building that myself, and I used one shelf on my TBR cart, almost an entire shelf, for the books that I have technically started but are not on Goodreads, because sometimes I do that. I'm trying to get better about not doing that. And so I really want to work through some of those books, and one of them is A Place Called Perfect. This is a kind of like dystopian, kind of sci-fi. It's about a young girl who she moves with her family to a new town, and things are very weird and creepy. People aren't acting the same, people disappear, and she seems to be the only one, except for this boy named Boy, who sees what is happening and who wants to do something about it. And so I'm using this for the genre I don't normally read prompt, because I don't read dystopian hardly ever. The castle prompt, because that one is about, you know, castles often come with dungeons, and read something that has a dark element, and I think this does have a pretty dark premise. External conflict, because I love this book cover, and the something weird is going on, because that's about reading one that has like a mystery plot to it. Again, check out our announcements for like the full details. I'll also link the Google Doc that has all the prompts and info. But yeah, I want to finally like finish this book. Like, it's embarrassing that I've read that much of it and I still haven't finished it. I'd also like to get to No Vacancy by Tsipora Cohen. I'm pretty sure I heard about this book from Amanda at the Curly Reader. I think it was one of her TBR videos. And this is very short, but I just think this sounds great. It's about a young girl who is Jewish, and her family buy an old hotel building, and they want to try and like revitalize it, and she ends up making friends with a young Catholic girl. It's about them learning more about each other's belief systems, and like obviously becoming friends and working together to try and save this this hotel. And yeah, I just think this sounds great. I'm using this for several prompts. Our two required prompts are the ones about the main character. So you're supposed to read a book with a main character who is different from you in some way, and then a book with a main character who is the same as you in some way. And so I'm using this for the different prompt, because the main character is Jewish and I am not. And actually, I don't know if her friend would be considered a main character or a side character. If she would be a main character, I could also use this for the same prompt, because I am also Catholic. I'm also using this for the community center prompt, because it's about a community coming together, you know, to try and like save this hotel, and also for the forest prompt, which is to read a book you haven't heard much about. Yeah, I just think this sounds great. I'm very excited to get to it. Also, speaking of Amanda from the Curly Reader, I'm pretty sure she's also where I heard about The Parker Inheritance by Varian Johnson. I read Playing the Cards You're Dealt by him earlier this year and absolutely loved it, so I'm excited to read more from him. And actually, I think this is kind of, this could also be like for the community center prompt, because our main character is a girl who finds some letters related to her grandmother, and there's like a scavenger hunt that she and her friends go on. I think there's like some mystery involved, and I don't know like what I would use this for specifically, like which prompts, but I know I'm excited to read it. So at some point that's going to happen. Then for a book that deals with themes of family, a book in your favorite genre, and the Cool Kids House prompt, which is to read a hyped book. I want to finally read Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I know, I can't believe I haven't read this yet, but but I'm finally going to. I don't feel like I need to explain much about it. It's a magical school book that I have heard only fantastic things about, so I'm glad to finally be getting to that. Then for the books that make you curious and for a genre that you want to read more from, I picked a couple of nonfiction books, because even though I do read a good amount of nonfiction for younger readers, I always want to read more of it, so this is a great opportunity. I picked out a couple of basically the other two History Smashers books that I haven't read yet, The Mayflower and The American Revolution. These are both by Kate Messner. This one is illustrated by Dylan McConis as well. Yeah, I just, especially with, you know, Thanksgiving coming up, I think it'd be really good to read more about the actual history of the US at that time period. And I think the American Revolution one sounds very interesting as well. But I also, for that prompt, would like to get to The Wonders We Seek, 30 Incredible Muslims Who Helped Shape the World by Sadia Faruqi and Anisa Mumtaz, illustrated by Safa Khan. Yeah, this just is what it sounds like. It looks like the art is going to be fantastic, as it basically always is with these kinds of books. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about Muslim history. So that one I also definitely want to get to. Then for the setting that is a book, and then also the internal conflict, which is to read a book that you've been putting off, I have another very hyped series, and that is I never know what to call it because it's different for the US and the UK. I think this is the Pages & Co series, and the first book in the US is called The Book Wanderers, and that's by Anna James. It's about a young girl who lives with her grandparents at the bookshop that they run, and she discovers that, I don't know if she can go into books or if she brings people out of books. Yeah, but it mentions like Anne of Green Gables and Alice in Wonderland, and I think A Little Princess is one that this book also talks about, and I just think this sounds lovely and cozy. I'm very excited to finally get to it, and I own multiple books in this series, so it's about time I actually read one. And then a book that is recommended by a friend. I have Remesa Ever After by Radia Hafiza, illustrated by Raida El Touni. My friend Hannah from Lynn Hermione read this pretty recently, and she enjoyed it even more than the first book, and I think I had known this was coming out, but then it kind of dropped off my radar. I hadn't heard a lot about it, and I think I even forgot to put it in my anticipated releases. So when Hannah mentioned that she had really enjoyed it, I ordered a copy, and this is like several different fairy tales. I think these are still fairy tales. And they're all with Muslim characters, like specifically young Muslim girls. Then the chosen one prompt is to read any book that you want, and for that one I have picked the Ogres and the Orphans by Kelly Barnhill. This is the UK cover, which I like a lot better, and you can see the bookmark because this is yet another book that I started and never put on Goodreads. I got 52 pages into this one and I was really enjoying it, but I just didn't continue. And it's about this ogress who she ends up going to this town where things are kind of getting like worse and worse, and people don't seem to know why. I think it is pretty clear from the story what's going on, but the townspeople don't realize what's happening. And the ogress ends up getting blamed for all of it, even though she's very kind and gentle. And I think she ends up making friends with some orphans from the orphanage. So this sounds lovely. I have really enjoyed other things I've read by Kelly Barnhill, so I'm excited to actually finish this one. Sorry, I'm gonna try and slow down. I know sometimes I talk too fast because people have told me that, but I can't. I'll do what I can. I'll do what I can. Then for an author that you love prompt, and for the self-acceptance prompt, which is to read a book that you think you'll love, I'd like to get to The Lost Girl by Anne Ursu. I have really, really loved the Real Boy by her, and I think of her as a favorite author despite never having read anything else by her, so I want to finally fix that. This one has to do with sisters. It's a fantasy book, and I just have a good feeling about this. I think I'm gonna really love this one as well. Then for the trope you love prompt, I want to finally get to Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas. Our main character has a beauty YouTube channel, and I obviously am very into makeup and beauty, so that's why I picked this one. Also a stunning cover, and yeah, I've talked about this a few times before, so I won't go into it too much, but I would like to actually get to it this time. And then for the Animal Companion prompt, this is a book I've had quite a while. I really love the cover, and I just feel like this sounds really good, and I don't know why I haven't gotten to it yet, but that is A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton, illustrated by Paulina Hananuemi, I think is maybe how you would say that. Just look at that cover. I love that. This is about a wolf named Zima who unexpectedly gets turned into a young girl. Oh, no, okay. So actually what happens is Baba Yaga switches their bodies. So she runs off into the woods as a wolf, and Zima is left behind in Baba Yaga's hut and Baba Yaga's body. And then a young girl named Nadia comes seeking the witch's help, and when she meets Zima in Baba Yaga's form, they discover that they face a common enemy. With danger closing in, Zima must unite the wolves, the witches, and the villagers against an evil that threatens them all. I think that sounds really good. Also, look at under the dust jacket. I don't know if you can see that, but there's like this little like wolf face. It's so cute. Yeah, I've had this for a while. I need to actually get to it, and hopefully I will. Okay, and then a couple of middle grade books that like I haven't picked prompts for them. I just wanted to throw these into the mix because I didn't have enough options. Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun by Tola Okogwu. This is about a young girl who her magic comes from her hair, which I think is very cool. I love that we see a young black girl who like literally gets power from her hair. That's very cool. And I don't know much about it, but I'm excited for that. And then I think I'd also like to get to, at some point, A Pocketful of Murder by R.J. Anderson. This is the first in, I think, a duology, and this is a historical fantasy with a murder mystery, and that's all I really know. I've really enjoyed the things I've read from R.J. Anderson, so I'd like to get to some of her other books. Okay, I think that's like the largest category is the middle grade magic prompts. So hopefully the rest of this video won't be that long, but let's keep going. So Series September is being run by Krista at Books and Jams, and I'm very excited about this because I've been doing like pretty good about reading from series, but I'd like to do even better. Okay, so the first prompt is let's get it started, which is to start a series. And I have Blaze Wrath Games by Amparo Ortiz. This is the first in, I think it's just a duology, and I don't know much about it except it's by a Latinx author, and I think there's dragons involved. I've heard good things about it. I really like this cover, and I've owned this book for a while, so, you know, would like to actually get to it. Then for the Double It Up prompt, that's to read 2 books in the same series or by the same author. I'd like to finally continue my kind of reread of the Dark is Rising series by Susan Cooper. This is a giant bind-up that has the whole series in it, and I read these books ages ago and I remember very little about them. I only read like the first kind of prequel one, which was Oversea Under Stone, or I only read that one recently. I think I read the whole series when I was a kid, and I would like to read at least the next 2. That would be The Dark is Rising and Green Witch. Yeah, I also am really bad about getting to books that I have in bind-ups, so that's another reason why I wanted to pick this one. Then for Blast from the Past, that is to read an old series or one that you started a long time ago. So I think this is a somewhat older series, and it's also one that I started a very long time ago. I have Forestborn by Shannon Hale. This is the final book in the Books of Bayern series, which I have been really enjoying. I know that there are very mixed feelings about the later books, but I've been continuing to really enjoy them. So I'd like to get to this one. I don't know too much about it that I can say without like spoiling stuff, I think. But I'd like to finally finish that series. And then I also, for this prompt, I picked Mask by W.R. Gingell. Even though I started this series pretty recently, this is a kind of an older book because even though it's in the middle of the series, it was the one that she published first, I think. Yeah, in 2015, which is not super old, but I think it's old enough to count it for this prompt. I also wanted an excuse to get to this, and this is in the Two Monarchies sequence, which I have been overall really enjoying, and it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. There is a murder mystery, like the tagline on the back is Beauty met the Beast and there was bloody murder with a question mark, so I just think that sounds really fun. Yeah, the main character of this one is Isabella, who we met in the previous book, and yeah, I just think this will be really fun. Then for Talk of the Town, that is to read a book in a popular series that you haven't read, or like an award winner or something like that, and I'm doubling up with Middle Grade Magic to read Amari and the Night Brothers. It's definitely a popular series. Then for That's a Wrap, finish a series or get all caught up. So I could count Forestborn, of course, but I also could count Remesa Ever After. I was going to try and dig it out of that pile, but I think we're just going to leave well enough alone. But I also could pick The Wonder Engine by T. Kingfisher. This is a second book in a duology that is also part of like an extended world that she writes in, and I've been meaning to read this duology, like to finish it, and I still haven't, so I'd like to actually do that. Then for Out of the Box, that is to read a book in a different genre, format, or category than your norm. And so I picked a graphic novel because I don't tend to read many graphic novels compared to other things. So I went with volume 2 of Lore Olympus. So if you saw a recent wrap up, I did not have a great time with the first volume, but I'm willing to give the second one a chance because I just want to really love the series, and I did like some of the art and everything, and I have heard that the characterization gets better in this volume, so I'm giving it one more chance. If I don't get on with this one, I think I'm going to DNF the series, but at least it won't take very long because it's a graphic novel and some of the pages have just like a couple pictures on them. Then You Own It, Now Start It, a series you own a few on your shelves but haven't read yet. And this is a bad habit of mine, so I have several I could pick from. One of them is Half Upon a Time by James Riley. I got the whole box set for this series on sale. It's only a trilogy, but I should actually start it. I actually read like a chapter or two of this and I wasn't like in love with it, but that might have also been the mood I was in at the time, and I do like fairy tale inspired books, so I'd like to read this. I think it is kind of a take on Jack and the Beanstalk, you can tell from the cover. So yeah, I hope I like that, because you know, I own the whole thing. I also could pick A Coup of Tea by Casey Blair. I talked about this recently. It's the Tea Princess Chronicles series, and I backed this series on Kickstarter, so I have the whole trilogy, and this is like a cozy fantasy that has to do with tea, and it's supposed to be very heartwarming and about like friendship, lifting people up even when the odds seem impossible. So I just think this sounds lovely, and I do want to start that one. I also recently bought a whole bunch of Sherwood Smith books because I've been really enjoying what I've read from her. So I could pick Inda, because I think I have this whole series now, because I'm trying to read her like fantasy world series in order, and this is like the first full series. Like I read the short story that starts it off, and this is the next series I need to get to. This is quite chunky, and I think it's kind of like military fantasy, but I like Sherwood Smith's writing and everything enough that I think I'd still get on with it, even though I'm not the biggest fan of like military fantasy or anything. Then for Now You Can Watch It, that is to read a book in a series that has an adaptation, and pretty much the only thing I could think of, because I feel like I don't read a lot of series that have adaptations, but I went with The Princess and Curdie because I know there are adaptations of the first book, which is The Goblin and the Princess, I think. Yeah, this is the only one I could think of, and this is by George MacDonald. I've had this for a while and I haven't read it, and after coming back to the first book, which I really enjoyed, even though I did not like it as a kid, I'm pretty hopeful about this one. Okay, now into the Fall Into Reading Challenge. This was originally created by Tia and all the books, but the kind of creator for this round specifically, the one who's kind of put everything together, is my wonderful friend Kelly, Cozy Reader Kelly. I will link that info down below, and I'm very excited about this. Yeah, have lots of options. It's like a bingo board and everything, and the first prompt is fantasy. For that one, I want to read Dreams Lie Beneath by Rebecca Ross. I finally want to read a Rebecca Ross book as of, you know, so I keep acquiring them. This has to do with dream magic. I think the Hate to Love romance is going to be really good, and I just have a good feeling about this. I also think this cover is gorgeous, which never hurts. Then for the historical fiction prompt, I picked yet another book that I technically have started. This one I'm only 30 pages into though, so that's not that bad. But that is Perception by Terry Fleming. This is a Jane Austen retelling. Specifically, it's with Pride and Prejudice, and I think Mary Bennet is the main character, but I think Kitty might be like a supporting character in this one, so I'm excited for that. I was enjoying it so far. Then for a contemporary, I'd like to get to This Is How We Fly by Anna Mariano. I love her Love Sugar Magic series, and I finally want to get to a contemporary book by her. Then for autumn vibes, I have a couple different books that I could go with. One of them is Lovezona by Romina Garber. This is the first book in, I think it's going to be at least a trilogy, and it has to do with like werewolves and Argentinian folklore, I think. Also Under the Dust Jacket is very cool too, and I've heard fantastic things about this, and I'd like to finally get to it. I've owned this for a while. Then my other pick for this is The Fire in the Glass by Jacqueline Benson. This is the first book in an indie fantasy series that I, again, think I'll really enjoy. It's set in 1914, and there's like a murder mystery involved. Our main character, Lily, she gets visions of the future that she can never change. When she foresees the death of her closest friend, there's something familiar about the details. They're just like the circumstances of a series of recent murders. If she can find the killer before he strikes, maybe this time she can finally thwart fate and save someone she loves. And she ends up working with this reclusive Lord Stringford, a man haunted by his own unusual powers. So he sounds like a brooding kind of love interest, but I feel like I'm going to enjoy this one. And a lot of the indie fantasy authors that I really love, I think, have enjoyed this book, so that also makes me hopeful. I just realized I was actually intending Lovezona for a different prompt, but I think it would work for fall. Another one I was thinking of for the fall prompt, you can see I have lots of options here, is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. This has like Phantom of the Opera / Moulin Rouge vibes, and I don't know. I know that opinion has been, look at that, has been kind of divided, but I feel like I'm gonna enjoy it. I'd like to try it. And I've, again, owned this book for a very long time. Then for a book that has orange on the cover, I have Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Alkaf, who's a Malaysian author who I really loved The Girl and the Ghost. And this is a contemporary kind of mystery set at a Scrabble tournament. So our main character is a girl who, you know, plays Scrabble professionally or competitively, and her best friend died very recently. So this is the first tournament that she's gone back to since that happened. And I think she starts finding out some things about her friend's death that makes her think it was murder. And I just think this sounds so interesting. I'm excited to read more by this author. Then there's a prompt that is classic, and whatever our past classics pick is, that's what I'll be reading. I think we're up to, let's see. I think that'll be the month when we're doing Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte, which I will be hosting. So keep an eye on our Twitter account, but that should be, if we stay on track, that should be the one that we're doing, which I really enjoyed. Personally, I didn't enjoy it quite as much as Tenet of Wildfell Hall, which I feel like is a pretty popular opinion. But if you go into it not expecting it to be that book, and you know that the romance is going to be like very, very understated, and that it's really more of like a character study, and if you like the main character and the writing, I feel like you'll enjoy it. Like all those things worked out for me at least. And then for the leaves on the cover prompt, I could double up with Remesa Ever After, and then another option I have is Annalie in Real Life by Janelle Milanes. I've heard really good things about her contemporaries, and again, I've owned these for a while. This one is, our main character is a very shy girl who I think she like does online gaming, and she's able to be a lot more confident in her online persona. And then I think there's like a fake dating situation that happens. I'm excited. I feel like people are very divided on the ending of this one, so we'll see how that goes, but I'd like to see how I feel about it. Then for a nonfiction book, I'd like to get to American Prophets by Jack Jenkins, The Religious Roots of Progressive Politics and the Ongoing Fight for the Soul of the Country. This is something I find very interesting because I feel like in the US, at least, pretty much the only times that religion and politics come up together is for like the far right, like right-wing people and groups, and that kind of ignores like the fact that, as the subtitle says, pretty much every progressive movement has had a strong foundation in religious activism, and how it's important to kind of talk about like those aspects of religion and politics as well. So I'm very interested to finally get to that one. Then for a mystery thriller, I'd like to get to This Is My America by Kim Johnson. This is a contemporary plus kind of mystery thriller that deals with racism in the US, and especially how that relates to the justice system, and like the death penalty. And I think it's going to be very, very heavy, but I've heard only excellent things about this, and I'd like to finally read it. Then for short story, I have a couple of options. One of them is Phoenix Fled by Atiya Hossein. She wrote one of our other Past Classics picks, which I hosted, which was Sunlight on a Broken Column, which I really enjoyed. Sadly, I think this is the only other published work we have from her, this is a very short collection of short stories, but I'm excited to read more from her. I really enjoyed her writing and her ideas and her perspectives, and I'd like to get to this. I also have another option, which is Jacklope Lives and Other Stories by T. Kingfisher, who's an author that I obviously really enjoy, and yeah, this is another one I could pick for that prompt. Then I have a couple of options for a romance novel. One of them is The X Talk by Rachel Lynn Solomon. This is basically like a fake second chance romance. Like it's like fake exes who end up actually developing a real romance, because it's these two people who are put on a radio show to give advice for like relationships, possibly for like breakups or something, and so they have to pretend that they were together and then broke up, and then they actually end up falling in love. I've heard pretty good things about this one, and I haven't read anything by Rachel Lynn Solomon yet, even though I would like to. I just knocked over a giant stack of books, so I'm gonna worry about that later. My other option is Daisies and Devotion by Josie S. Kilpack. This is a proper romance. It's the second book in the Mayfield family series, and this has been really interesting because I read a later book in the series that I really loved, and then I read the first book in the series, which I had very mixed feelings about, so we'll see how I go with this one. But this one, it's a trope I really love, which is like the matchmaker or like character working to set somebody up with someone else and then they like them instead. I need like a snappier name for that, but I really love that trope. And that's all I really know about this one, so I'd like to continue that series. And then the last fall into reading prompt is science fiction, and I'd like to continue my reread of the Wrinkle in Time series. This is Many Waters by Madeline L'Engle, which this book, it's listed as number 4 in this box set, even though it comes before, like chronologically, the one listed as number 3, which bothers me. But yeah, I would like to reread that. There's also like several group books. One of them is Gatillion by Georgette Heyer, which is one of my favorite books, so I hope everyone enjoys it. Yeah. Okay, and then finishing off with my Latinx book bingo books. I haven't picked something out for every prompt, but I have most of the prompts covered. There is a group book, which I believe is a horror novel, so I won't be reading that one. but I do have a lot of Latinx authors I'd like to get to. Some of these I've already talked about, so I won't spend too much time on them. For the set in Latin America prompt, I want to read Lovezona because, like I said, this is based on Argentinian folklore, and I believe it actually, part of it takes place in Argentina. Then for the poetry / novel and verse prompt, I'd like to read Jazz Owls by Margarita Engel, a novel of the Zoot Suit Riots, art by Rudy Gutierrez. And this is very, very short, and it's going to be even quicker to read because it's in verse, and I don't really know anything about these riots, so I think that'll be very interesting. Then for the Afro-Latinx prompt, I'd like to finally read The Only Thing Worse Than Me Is You by Lily Anderson. I've heard great things about this. This is a contemporary retelling of Much Ado About Nothing, which is one of my favorite plays, one of my favorite couples. So yeah, I'm hopeful that this one will be something I really enjoy. Then for the middle grade prompt, I have Sofia Acosta Makes a Scene by Emma Othogui. I'm very excited for this one. It's about a young girl who, I think her parents are like famous ballet dancers in Cuba, or like originally they were from Cuba, and they kind of want her to follow in their footsteps, but what she's really excited about is costuming. I just think that sounds lovely. Then for the foodie prompt, hopefully my library is going to get a copy of this one because I'd like to read Magic by Mirel Ortega. This is the first picture book that she has written as well as illustrated. I love her art style, and this is about her life growing up on her family's pineapple farm, I think, which I think sounds lovely. For the joyful prompt, I haven't picked out anything, but I think either Magic or like one of the middle grade books could definitely work for that. Not that middle grade books are always happy, because they definitely aren't, but I think some of the ones I've picked could definitely work for this. Then for the co-authored prompt, I think I'm finally going to get to Miss Meteor by Taylor K. Mejia and Anna Marie McLemore. Anna Marie McLemore is one of my favorite authors, and I keep like saving this book, but I'd like to actually get to it. And yeah, I think this is about like a beauty pageant, and I think they're like ex-best friends who end up having to come together to try and get one of them to win the beauty pageant, even though there's never been a Latinx girl who has won it before. And yeah, I think this is gonna be amazing. Then for series, I could pick like Lovezona. I could also go with Blaze Wrath Games, so I have a lot of options for that. Then for romance, let's see, I picked Our Way Back to Always by Nina Moreno. This is a young adult contemporary romance. I really love Don't Date Rosa Santos, and this is set in the same, I think, community, but following different characters. And I think it's like a best friends to lovers, and they end up doing like this kind of like bucket list, I think, the summer before college, which those are two tropes that I'm not like the biggest fan of, but I trust Nina Moreno, so I'm still excited for this. Then for nonfiction, I have Finish the Fight, The Brave and Revolutionary Women Who Fought for the Right to Vote by Veronica Chambers and the staff of the New York Times. This was actually a present from my wonderful friend Taylor from Page Screen Taylor, and I love the like layout and design and just everything about, yeah, the design of this book. And it's a very short nonfiction book that is about the women of color who were so instrumental in getting women the right to vote in the US, and of course who are often left out of history. So I'm very excited to read this. And then the last book I have is for the disabled main character prompt, and that is one I'm very excited for, and that is Breathe and Count Back from 10 by Natalia Sylvester. She wrote Running, which I really enjoyed a couple of years ago, and this is about a main character who has hip dysplasia, and she wants to be in a like mermaid show. And yeah, I just think this sounds great. Sorry, that is like so many books. I should just call this like fall reading plans, because even for me, this is like a ridiculous amount to choose from for 1 month. Like I said at the beginning that I'm not going to read all of these, this is just what I'm picking from, but this is still a lot. I also should mention the book clubs that I am hosting. So Deep Light by Frances Harding is for mine and Hannah's Frances Harding read along. Follow our social media about when that live show is going to be, but it's probably going to be late September. And then Fire by Kristen Kashore, which I'm hosting with Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany, and Mel from A Book Fiend Named Mel. I will link that info as well. If I forgot anything else, I will put that in the description box. But yeah, I have too many things I want to read, too many things I'm excited about. But having a lot of options for me is a good thing, because I like to feel like I can, you know, mood read from among these books. Let me know if you are participating in any of these readathons or read-alongs. Let me know a book you're excited about. I'm sorry this video was so long. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!